In this video, I'm going to be talking about how to move from F1 to green card without getting married to an American citizen. Information has always been a problem for most of us. People, specifically F1 students, when we move down here from whatever country you're coming from. This is very peculiar with African students because more often than not, we don't have this sense of community that you see amidst, say, like Chinese students or Indian students, things like that. So I feel this video will be very resourceful to three set of people. Number one, those that are here already and they're like confused about what to do. Should they graduate or should they? How can I go about the process of making sure that I don't get kicked out of the country when I'm done studying, right? The second category of people that I think would benefit from this video are those that are coming in for like graduate studies or undergrad that are just coming in fresh. Having access to information like this will really help them plan their program very well and strategize right from day one. And the third set of people that I think will benefit from the information that I'm going to share in this video would be those that are kind of like stuck in the system. If you're not here, it will be difficult to understand the idea of being stuck in the system. But basically, think about this for a minute. You can stay on F1 visa for as long as possible, as long as you remain a student in America. And most people take advantage of the system by just being a student, by registering for like classes and not graduating. If you don't graduate, you're not gonna be out of status. And if you're not out of status, you can still remain in the US. But there are so many ways to go about, like if your goal is to stay back in the country, there are so many ways to go about the process of securing your stay in the US rather than having to get stuck in the system or being confused about the path to take to the point of probably getting a permanent residency. An easy way to think about it is this. You come in as an F1 student. This status allows you to stay in the US as long as you remain a student. But you don't want to stay on F1 once you're done with your school because you are not even allowed to do that. You want to transition from being a student to being a working class. Now the question is, if you want to stay here longer than just a couple of years, say 4 or 5 years, you do need to get yourself on some sort of permanent residency. That's the only way to go if you intend to stay here for a longer period of time. So what I'll be addressing in this video is how you can go about the transition process from F1 to getting a permanent residency, also known as green card. Now there is a common way to do that. If you're young, you get here, you spend time in school, you can find somebody that you love, you fall in love, that happens to be an American citizen, you get married, and the person can easily fight for you to become a permanent resident, which makes sense because if you're building a life with somebody, you have to be able to stay here permanently to build that life. But what I'll be addressing in this video is how to go from F1 to having a green card even without getting married to an American citizen or a legal permanent resident. The first thing to think about is the chain of events that is in between your F1 status and the green card status, okay? F1 status is a non-immigrant visa, which means when you appear for your visa interview, you're telling the visa officer that I don't have anything to do with, I just want to come in here, I just want to come into America, get my degree, and come back to my own country. It's called non-immigrant intent visa. I can't remember the exact word, but that's the idea behind F1 visa. The same thing with B1, B2. I'm coming here, get some education, and leave. Now, the system is structured in such a way that when you're done with your education, they want you to have some opportunity to practice what you've learned in school, right? So there's a category of status. It's really not a visa, it's a status attached to F1 visa. It's called optional practical training, which basically serves like a work authorization that allows you to learn in your industry, like practical aspects of your education. So say if you studied biology like I did, for example, you get 3 years of optional practical training. The first year is the standard OPT that everybody gets. You spend 12 months. If you're employed, if you're able to get a job, you get that OPT without having to show that you have a job or anything. So when you have the OPT, you can use the OPT to get a job. But for you to extend from that 12 months to extend it for another 24 months, which we call STEM OPT, which is specifically for science, technology, and general math graduates, you need to show that you're working in the field that closely relates to what you studied in school. So that's a different conversation from what I'm trying to address in this video. But you typically go from F1 to OPT and then from OPT to STEM OPT. So if you study science, engineering, math, anything that's to do with technology, any STEM program, you get 3 years. And then people move from OPT to H1B. So H1B is basically a work visa. It's also termed a dual intent visa, which means you're here as a non-immigrant, but if the opportunity to be an immigrant opens up, you would take it. It's a dual intent. It shows that if you're given the opportunity to stay, you're going to stay, but you're here to work mainly, right? So F1 visa, OPT, STEM OPT, H1B. Now, each of these visas, they have their own duration, or each of these status rather. I wouldn't call it visa anymore because you only need a visa to get into the country. Their status once you're in the country. So each of these status, they have a particular duration. F1 will get you through your education. OPT will give you 1 year, 12 months to work in your field. If you're able to get a job in your particular field, you can extend that. If you're able to get a job in your field and you are also in a STEM program or you studied a STEM program, you extend that by another 24 months. Within those period, you have to get your employer to sponsor what is known as H1B visa, which is a work visa that I was talking about. This H1B visa typically extends for like 3 years, and you can do renewal twice, right? So once you get picked for H1B, it's a whole process, sort of like a lottery system. But once you get picked for H1B, you can extend that twice. That gives you 6 years to work on H1B. Do the math: 1 year on OPT, 2 years on STEM OPT. That's 3 years. 2 years of STEM, 2 years of 2 rounds of H1B. That's 6 years. So 6 plus 3, that's almost 9 years. If you've stuck with a particular career during that time frame, at this point you're an expert in your field already, which means you're not an entry-level person. You are like slightly above mid-level career person at this point, right? This is when you can talk to your employer to file for a green card for you. Now the problem with that is that your employer must be able to establish that there's no American that can perfectly do what you do. There's no American that is qualified to fit into your role. It's a whole process, but it's not complicated when you think about the time that you've invested in that particular field. Say for instance, you're in research, for example. For instance, you're in research. If you've invested all these 9 years, 9 years that I just mentioned into a particular field or specialty, very few people can really do what you do, or very few people know or have the skills to do what you do at that point in time. So that's a particular route that people take. They go from F1 to OPT, STEM OPT, H1B, and then they get their employer to file for a green card for them. The process is, it appears longer, but the point is there are so many people in the country that have spent more than 10 years and they're still like in a particular phase without any chance of moving forward. So that's one possibility, going from F1 to OPT, then STEM OPT, and H1B, and then green card. The other option that is quite popular at this point is called national interest waiver. Not a lot of people know about this, or people are starting to know about it, but like 3 or 4 years ago, people don't know much about NIW. So NIW is basically you showing or proving to the United States government that you staying here is going to benefit the country in the long run. It's for the interest of the United States. It's on you to show proof of burden. You don't need anybody to file NIW for you. You don't need anybody to sponsor your NIW. You can be here, be on F1, be on OPT, be on H1B, and gather evidence that shows that what you're doing will contribute significantly to the growth or to the benefit of the United States. There's a whole lot of process that is involved in gathering the evidence, presenting your evidence, getting people to attest to your claim that your presence here is for the benefit of this country. But people do it all the time. And 2 main things that is really required to show that your presence is going to benefit the country is: number 1, you need to have people that are very, very like influential, strong in their field of interest to be able to write letter of recommendation for you. Basically, people saying, oh, I know of this guy's work, and this guy's work is going to benefit the country in the long run. If you're in a particular field, it is not really it's not difficult to get people like that. If you're in a particular field, it might be difficult for some people depending on your relationship with your professor, your relationship with people around you, your relationship with your supervisors at work, or things like that. But it's an option that people explore all the time. The limitation to NIW is that you need to have an advanced degree. So at the very least, you need a master's degree for you to be able to apply for NIW. But I think most of my audience, most of you guys that are listening to this video, that would not be a difficult thing because a lot of people are coming here for grad school. So once you're done with master's degree or PhD, you can leverage that advanced degree. Also get recommendation letters from people that are very strong in your industry, and use that to submit your petition to USIS. So most people would rather go for NIW because you can submit enough proof for that particular process. But those are the two main ways that you can explore. Is either you rely on your employer to get you a green card after you spend some time on H1B, or you file for yourself something called self-petition, where you submit a petition because you have exceptional skill that is going to benefit the country in the long run. So that's all I have for you in this video. If you have any question about the process, I'm going to add some link in the description that's going to guide you on like materials and resources that can help you inform yourself about the entire process, because I know if this is something that you're interested in, you probably have a lot of questions, and the most important thing is for you to have access to resources that's going to guide you in the entire process. So I'm going to add some of this link to the video, and also you can ask some questions that you might have. I'll try my best to answer them, and if I cannot answer those questions, I will direct you to the right place to get information.